Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to this evening's Licensing Committee meeting. For any councillors who are accessing this meeting remotely, a reminder that you are not counted as being present for the purposes of the Local Government Act 1972, and you may not vote on any item under consideration. At the discretion of the Chair, you may, however, contribute to the discussion and participate in a non-decision-making capacity. All committee members are required to attend in person. Any member of the council can attend and make a request to the chair to speak or ask a question under normal rules. This meeting is being live streamed for public viewing, and a record of decisions taken will be published after the meeting. I would like to remind members who are physically present and also those who may be joining remotely of the following protocols. Only speak when invited to do so by the chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the chair. For those joining remotely, please ensure that your mics are muted when you are not speaking. Please use the chat function to alert of any technical difficulties. Please, however, do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the committee or to make other comments. So at this point, I will hand over to the Chair, Councillor Smith. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and welcome everyone to this Licensing Committee, Thursday the 8th of December at 7 o'clock. So just go through the agenda, which you can see in the back there on the first page. So the first item is apologies for absence, and we have received several apologies for absence. Councillor Conway, Councillor Lufkin, Councillor Ozen, Councillor Patrick, Councillor Suzarunga, Councillor Walker, Councillor Rout, and Councillor Ross.
That's correct, Chair.
So moving swiftly on to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any interests they wish to declare? Great, fantastic. Agenda item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. We do have matters arising. The Head of Community Safety Enforcement and Business Regulation provided a written response to Councillor Rout's question regarding one of the deployable late night levy cameras not being operational. It should be noted that one of the late night levy cameras in Old Street was not working, but was back up and operational by Friday the 9th of September. All of these cameras are under warranty, and if there is an issue with them getting repaired they will get repaired as a priority. But if there is a part which needs replacing, we are reliant on this being provided as soon as possible, and there may be a delay in obtaining it. So, Councillor Rout, I know you're online. Do you want to come back? Is that a satisfactory outcome for you there?
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic, great. And this will be added to the minutes. Agenda item 4, which is the late night levy, year 5, quarter 4 update. And I would like to invite Ms. Mathis to give us an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I will present the year 5, quarter 4 update. The levy year runs from November 1st to October 31st every year. So year 5, quarter 4 will cover August, September, and October. To start, I'll look at the income. So we've now returned to normal income levels. We took a total of 492K, as you can see in point 1.2 of the report. Just to give some perspective, the average annual income over previous years is about 414K. So we are now starting to see overdue payments come in for amounts owed in previous years. We also had a balance carried over from year 4 of 146 to 132K. We intend to present our annual financial report at the end of each financial year. So in April, we will start to draft the financial report. Then just to go on to point 2, I'll go through the expenditure. The first 3 lines in table 2.1 represent the annual expenditure for the administration of the levy, the salaries, and our enforcement service. And these are amounts taken at the end of each financial year. We also have costs for a 7-month period for a total of 26,658K. And the police spend from July 2020 to July 2022 is 197,961K. Just to note here, there's always quite a large delay between the dates of provision and the invoicing dates, as the agreements run over a 6-month period, and it takes quite some time to receive the final invoices for those periods, hence why we haven't received the final confirmed spends past July. These will be confirmed in 2023. As you can see, we've also had the renewal of the data packages for a 3-year period for the 4 redeployable CCTV cameras and associated deployment costs, which are when we move the cameras around the borough. They have that has a cost to it. So that's indicated in the table. We also had some minimal costs around training, print and design, and recruitment. A lot of that is to do with all the training we offer, but also the accreditation scheme launch, which launched this September. We're just currently in the process of creating our budget for the upcoming financial year. So we will be presenting that to the Late Night Levy Board in January, and then the confirmed budget will be presented to the committee with any future proposals. So as you can see at the bottom of the table, we have a balance remaining as it stands of about 231K. So that is not including any of the policing costs that we are still awaiting invoices on. Then just to move on to number 3. So essentially we can divide the work within the Late Night Levy and Hackney Nights into 3 main areas. The first one I'm going to cover is crime prevention and engagement. And also that's just us working directly with licensed premises to ensure their staff are well informed and that they have preventative measures in place. So we've continued to offer the training for free to licensed premises, and we are starting to see some really good interventions on the part of venues where staff are females or alert our teams to an incident before we pick them up ourselves. We are now at 7 accredited venues. It states that applications have been slow, but I'm happy to say that since the drafting of this report, we have received quite a few applications and have about 12 pending at the current time. And I think that's down to the newsletter, which I'll explain just later on. So we'll continue to do our regular visits. So we engage with venues on a weekly basis. We're constantly popping our heads into places we haven't had relationships with and growing that database of managers that we're trying to build. The second area of work is the enforcement and the welfare of nighttime economy users. So that covers police, enforcement, CCTV, and our medical team. So with the police, our current agreement ended on the 31st of October, and a new agreement was agreed to carry us up until the end of the financial year in the amount of 115K. It is, I would like the committee to know that the police will be reducing resources from January to March 2023, hence the lower contracted amount. But I do think that the partnership we have now between the police, venues, and medics is probably the best model we've ever had. And we're seeing a lot of good results. So in relation to the medics specifically, it was decided at the last Late Night Levy Board that we would keep them on for a further 6 months, and we have now signed a contract with them to that effect. We also have agreed to have them on Thursdays in December, and that's to help with the festive period, a lot of Christmas parties happening. So they'll be on Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the entire month of December. So as you can see in point 4.3, they have intervened in a total of 104 incidents in this specific quarter. And most of these individuals are either intoxicated, incapacitated, vulnerable, or have harmed themselves in some way. We've also increased the radio scheme by 16 late night premises, and that continues to grow, which is why at the current time we are also trialing an additional CCTV operator in the control room, and that is to assist with the higher volume of calls, but also to more actively monitor the business radio channels. And so far, I must say, the results have been very promising. The feedback we're getting from venues and enforcement officers has been really positive. And last but not least, we have the comms and information sharing aspects of our work. So I think it's really important that guidance and best practice is available, but most of all, we need to ensure that businesses know where to find that information and access it regularly, and that's been a big portion of the work we've been doing. The Hackney Unites portal remains our main vehicle for this. Our engagement visits always aim to sign up new premises, which in turn means they're automatically added to our mailing list. So we've been working really hard to get that database of managers because, as you know, a lot of the information we hold about licenses is mostly to do with, owners or the oversight of the license, but we actually have built a database of day-to-day managers which receive firsthand all of the safety advice we have to give. And I think the newsletters, which we've now just sent out our second edition, so the winter edition, it was distributed to every single licensed premise across the borough. And I think that's the reason why we saw that uptake in the accreditation scheme applications. And I've actually found that that's really a good way to reach the managers at the premises, to drop off these newsletters, to have that face-to-face time. So that's been very, very positive, and hopefully you all should have received a copy of the winter edition newsletter, and if you haven't, please let me know. And just to conclude, I think we're finally getting to a position where it feels like a well-oiled machine in the nighttime economy. The partnership, I honestly feel, is like the best it's been since I joined the council. More venues are engaging more than ever, and our relationships have grown so much, which I think is in part because we invested so highly in the preventative programs and schemes. We've still seen some resistance into paying of fees, but we're working through these on a case-by-case basis. We're trying to be as pragmatic as possible. I think we're very well prepared for this festive period and the World Cup, with the highest amount of staff trained than any previous year. So I think that 2023 will continue in this vein, and it's all looking very positive. And I think that's about it for my update, apart from the fact that I just want to wish the committee a very happy and safe festive season, and hopefully they can enjoy our licensed premises across the borough. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you for that. Any comments, questions? Councillor Sizer.
Just a quick question. You mentioned a reduction in spending and January to March, reduction of resources. Can you talk a little bit about what that's about?
Yeah, so that would be the police resources that we currently fund. So at the current time, we're funding 1 inspector, 4 sergeants, and 24 police constables. And from January to March, that will fall to 1 inspector, 3 sergeants, and 18 police constables for that specific period. And that was a decision taken by the police in the last late night levy board.
Is that a funding issue? Are you able to speak about the reasons for that, or?
It was a completely police-led decision. So the way it will impact our funding is that it will actually end up costing us a little bit less, actually, in the long term. But we expect that resource to go back up as the busier months pick up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm right in saying it's been kind of risk assessed and stuff, that decision. So, that they don't think that they would need the kind of the maximum number, if you like. Councillor Garbutt.
Thank you. Just brilliant work. I think it's in a really good position because of all the time and effort that you and your team put in. I think it's really great. And it's great to see the medics extended and all the great impact that they're having. My question was just about, I had one question just on the finances. If you can just talk a bit about the remaining balance and if you expect that to be the same, what that's going to look like by the end of the year. And, obviously there was a roll forward last time. So it's just if you're thinking of spending that or just keeping that kind of as a contingency.
Yes, sorry, Councillor. There is, so a lot of this, like I said, it's really hard to give a complete overview mid-financial year. So obviously at the end of the financial year, we'll have a very big picture because obviously there's a lot of the police invoices that haven't come through. So out of that balance remaining, that's not counting any incoming invoices that we're expecting to receive. So we have a monthly carrying costs every month. And that will be reduced significantly by the time we get to the end of the financial year. I think I'll have a much clearer response for the committee next after we've done the analysis at the end of the year, because we're still receiving income at the current time. So it'd be yeah, I'd be happy to present a full report at the next, I think the committee in June would be the one after the financial year.
Thank you very much. And I think we've got Councillor Root online.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to say, well, congratulations, because it does sound like a really rosy picture. And I was just wondering, are we doing anything to sort of share the successes that we're having with other London boroughs to sort of lead the way as a best practice or anything like that? Because it would be nice to see us sharing some of our successes and the positivity with other boroughs so that they can benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, just the other week, we had the Night Czar, Amy Lemmy, come and do a walkabout of the nighttime economy with us. And they're actually going to produce a document about the different programs that are going on in Hackney. So hopefully that will shine a bit of light. But yes, I agree with you. We need to be shouting from the rooftops, so to speak. And any suggestions on how we can achieve that, please do send them my way.
Councillor Fajana Thomas.
Just to add to what Sam said, that there is a nighttime economy lead members forum that brings together the London Nightside. Milame has got that group together. So when we meet, or we got the WhatsApp forum where we share good practices and talk to each other around what we're doing at our nighttime economy. And I've been liaising with my East Linton counterpart in terms of what Sam and the team are doing around NOx campaign in Shoreditch. So that good practice is being shared from the officer side and as from my side as lead member. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Root, do you want to come back at all?
No, that's good. I mean, I suppose I do wonder whether or not we might think about getting the council's comms team to put together, to work with Samantha to kind of maybe put together some press release or something from maybe in the new year to trumpet what's happened. And you know.
Right, Councillor Root, can you go back a little bit, because we couldn't hear there. There's a function on. Could you just repeat the middle bit?
Sorry. Yeah, no, I think that all sounds very positive. And, you know, when it comes to ideas about how to share the best practice, I think it might be a good idea maybe for Samantha to liaise with the council's comms team to think about maybe putting out a press release and perhaps inviting one or two journalists along, as you had Amy LeMay along, to show them what we're doing and maybe look for a bit of wider publicity about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll certainly take that away. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. I've just got a couple of points that I'd like to raise, Sam. It mentions in here that one police officer was assaulted. Could you just elaborate a little bit about that, and we just send our best wishes if it was a bad incident?
Yes, from what I know, the police officer has made a full recovery and is doing well. And it was our medical team that actually attended to his injuries. From what I understand, they were, it was an assault of some sort, but I don't have any more details than that. But yes, he's doing well.
Good. And then finally, the newsletter. Did members receive a copy of that newsletter? Yeah. Because it was very good. Councillor Garbutt, you said you've received.
Okay.
So yeah, any members that didn't get it, please let Sam know, and she'll be happy to forward that on. I mean, it is a really good newsletter, so it's highly recommended. Any further questions at all? Yeah.
We
Yeah,
did have the licensing committee members on our distribution list, but if some haven't received it, I will look into that and ensure they do.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Great. Okay. So we've had our questions. We've had a little bit of a debate. Everyone seems satisfied, so it's time to move on. Can we just note the report, please, and the appendices? Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. Agenda item 5, the timetable for the review of the statement of licensing policy and the cumulative impact assessment for the borough. So that would be Mr. David Chewett. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So within the agenda today, you'll find a report which, as the Chair says, gives a bit of background on the timetable for the review of the statement of licensing policy and the preparation of a community of impact assessment. So just a bit of background, the statement of licensing policy, there's a requirement placed on every local authority in England and Wales to publish a statement of licensing policy and review it at least once every 5 years. This document must establish the principles which are applied when determining applications under the Licensing Act 2003. So these are premise license applications, sale of supply of alcohol, regulated entertainment, late night refreshment, club premises certificates, personal licenses, etc. And these policies should seek to promote 4 licensing objectives, which I'm sure you're all very aware of: the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. Our current policy has been in place since August 2018. It became effective on the 1st of August 2018, so there is a requirement now for us to review that. Since then, there's a new requirement where if an authority believes that there are problems in a certain area, it can commission a community of impact assessment. As you'll be aware, that we have 2 community of impact areas or special policy areas in Hackney, in Shoreditch and Dalston. So we'll be commissioning work to look at those areas again, and any other areas for that matter across the borough, just to understand whether there is still a problem of community of impact in some areas, and determine whether there should be a policy for those areas that apply to those areas. So that work's now ongoing. So just in paragraph 4, I set out a proposed timetable for the review of the policy and the preparation of the community of impact assessment. So the work has already started, but in January we'll look to just present or update the policy steering group internally, and then I hope to bring the draft policy to the licensing committee at its meeting on the 8th of March. So the 2 pieces of work will run side by side. So we'll consult on the licensing policy from March till May, and we'll still be doing that work on the community of impact assessment at the same time. But it'll be June or July that the licensing committee will receive the post-consultation draft of the licensing policy for approval by full council. And there's a full council meeting in every July, so it'll be that July 2023 meeting that that full council will approve the licensing policy, the statement of licensing policy. And then following that, in September 2023, the community of impact assessment is likely to be published following a public consultation. And again, with this timetable as prepared at the moment, or as proposed at the moment, the full council will consider that community of impact assessment at its meeting in October 2023. And that's essentially it for this part of for the timetable itself. But what I have been looking at so far to this point is just what areas of the policy are we likely to be looking at. So I'm sure members are very familiar with that policy as it exists at the moment. But just from my sort of initial work looking at it, there'll be a number of things that we need to do in this forthcoming version. So we need to reflect, obviously, the last few years as a result of the pandemic, the various lockdowns, impact that's had on this particular part of the economy, nighttime economy, hospitality economy, etc., cost of living impacts, and then the usual things which Home Office guidance suggests that the policy should make reference to. So various council strategies such as the Dalston Plan, which is undergoing review, Shoreditch Plan, London Plan, community strategy, alcohol strategy, which public health colleagues are working on, and nighttime economy vision if it's available. And then we'll also look at some specific policy items. So the community impact assessments and the special policies in Shoreditch and Dalston and any other areas. Some suggestion that we might introduce some exemptions for certain types of proposals, certain types of business style of operation. And then we'll look at some things that have become quite topical in the last 5 years, like alcohol deliveries, rapid deliveries, late night deliveries and third party fulfillment, scooters and bicycles, those sorts of things that should really come up in the last 5 years or so. Business and Planning Act, which so as a result of the pandemic, see how that would align with our current outdoor hours policy of 10 p.m, where colleagues in the market service, we should seek to align our policies. So I'll be talking to colleagues there. And then the councils, and yours in particular, Chair, your ambitions around sustainability, net zero. So we'll look to reflect that in the policy as well. At the moment, we've only got a very small section on late night levy towards the end of the policy, I believe it is. So we'll look to put that more prominent within the document, referring to Samantha's work on the Hackney Nights portal, the violence against women and girls work that's ongoing, things like drink spiking, protect duty, which is something that's come out post Manchester Arena bombing. So it reflects all of that in the policy. We'll look to reflect changes to the Town and Country Planning Act Use Class Order, which came out of, again, the pandemic. Look at how our core hours applies to that as well. Look at what planning colleagues would be doing with their development management and policies that might have come about. We've also, of course, got London Legacy Development Corporation, which has that planning authority responsibility at the moment, but it won't beyond, I think it's 2024 possibly. So we'll need to reflect that in the policy as well. And then the last thing probably do is just update the pool of conditions, which is at the end. So reflecting things that often come up at hearings and in applications when we're looking at them: dispersal plans, noise management plans, staff training, outdoor management, toilet provision, fire risk assessments, all of those sorts of things. That's it.
Thank you very much. I mean, that sounds really exciting and really comprehensive. I mean, I hope that list there. Would members like to come back at all? Some questions. So, Councillor Garbutt, I note first. Just a second before Councillor Garbutt.
Thanks for setting that up. It's really interesting to hear the areas that are going to be covered and to hear that some of the positives will be like built in and kind of baked into the new policy. Questions in kind of two areas. One is obviously a really keen interest in the consultation period, because there's obviously a lot of really key stakeholders. So just, yeah, if you've got any thoughts about how we could, obviously it's early stages, but just make sure that that's as engaging as possible, because I know we've talked about through resident kind of engagement that this is their opportunity to really steer how licensing's done. And obviously you also mentioned the gig economy, so making sure we liaise with the union of the riders, so the Independent Workers of Great Britain, and the WINGS, the independent kind of union and workers. So yeah, just, and obviously all the venues. So it's, yeah, just if you've got any thoughts about how we really make sure that that's productive. And then just for my own interest, who would sit on the what kind of representatives are on the steering group? Thanks.
So the Licensing Act itself sets out who we must consult. so holders of licenses, premises licensing, club premises certificate, personal licenses, and the responsible authorities. But then beyond that, it will be the work that we do with our colleagues in the consultation team around how we consult and who we consult, and the timescales. Because the timescales, we used to have a lot more time to consult, but don't. The periods between the meetings are not as they were. So we used to be able to consult quite easily for 12 weeks, where we've recent years had to reduce those just to be able to get the documents through. But I think we'll look to consult, maybe build on a little bit more than what we did previously in the past. Sorry, Councillor, you had a question about steering group?
Yeah, thank you. It was just what kind of representatives make up the steering group? Like who is the steering?
On the policy development?
Yeah.
So the policy steering group locally, I don't actually know who makes up that group, the policy steering group. Perhaps Councillor Simon Thomas, I don't know if you could assist with that question.
I'm not 100% sure, but I know that we involve the policy team as well as David and regeneration, probably myself and chair of licensing, but I can come back to you with that, or Jerry.
So I think we'll also need to go to the policy strategy group, and they will also need to decide on it as well.
That'd be really interesting to know. I just wondered if there was like a rep from venues or resident rep or anyone on the steering group, or if it was internal. And then, yeah, it's really good to hear about the consultation period. And I just think, obviously, being a Dalston councillor and having a lot of nighttime economy in Dalston, it'd be really good to hear about what I can do to make sure that residents are really involved in that period as well. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much.
Well, the difference this time is that it's effectively two pieces of work running side by side. So the policy itself and the community of impact assessment. We'll have a bit more time to work on community of impact assessment. So that might give us a bit more opportunity to do some of that sort of engagement work.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sizer?
Yeah, I was really pleased to hear that there'd been a focus on spiking with drinks, and I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about prevalence of that, how common you're finding it, is it a growing trend, and what's being done to address the issue in the borough. Thank you.
I think it is quite prevalent. It does seem to be a growing trend. So we get sent various reports from the police on a weekly basis. We are starting to see, well, we are seeing quite high levels of other very evident cases of drink spiking, or some suspicion of drink spiking as well. So we do see that. I think what the policy would do is just make reference to that, and then reference to steps that operators can take, to prevent that, and then also reference to what they can do when they suspect that things like that happened. So that's the sort of thing that would be within the side of policy, but specifically would be, I would say, the training that Samantha would do in the Hackney Night sort of work.
I'll come in, Chair, on that. Just to say, I think that's especially an area why it's so important to offer training, because there are a very specific set of things a venue can do to really deter this from happening in their space. And actually, we have seen some venues do some very good interventions and prevent drink spiking incidents as well. So I think making reference to that training, making sure it's available to the licensed premises in the policy will be extremely important.
Yeah, just thank you for that, and just a plea to please keep that on the agenda. Anecdotally, I've been really alarmed recently by the rise in what I'm hearing about, and so please can we keep that as a borough focus and make sure it's being noted. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sizer, for that great question. Councillor Root.
Thank you, Chair. I had a similar question to Councillor Garbett about who is on the policy steering group. And I just wondered if it might be possible for us to find out who is on that group and to publish that with the minutes, perhaps, because it seems to me quite important that we should know who is on the steering group. Because, you know, obviously, if we want to input into it, people need to know who to talk to. I also just wanted to say, you know, that there's a huge amount of work there, all those different policies to kind of incorporate into the new strategy, and you know, good luck with the timetable, really, because it does look quite tight. And the only other thing I was going to say with regard to the consultation, because the consultation period is quite tight, I wonder if it's worth publishing in advance some publicity, perhaps on some of the council's own magazines or whatever, to say when the consultation will be happening in advance, so that people are actually actively looking out for it in advance of when it actually happens. So that, you know, quite often with consultations, people say, oh, I didn't realize it, and then it was all over. So if we could give a little bit of advance publicity about the consultation period, that might help to get more responses.
Okay, yeah, that's certainly something we can bear in mind.
Councillor Fajana Thomas.
In response to Councillor Rout's question or around the steering group, as I mentioned, I think David or myself will come back to member in terms of that membership. And on consultation, I think it is important to stress that it's not going to be David that will lead on the consultation. Hackney has a very good consultation and engagement team. So the consultation will be led by those groups. It's not going to be licensing team that will be carrying out the consultation and all the comms around it. Thanks.
Councillor Root, do you want to come back?
I guess it's just to say that it does seem to me that when it comes to consultation, that clearly there are going to be some organisations and individuals, indeed, who are more interested in this particular consultation, and licensing would be aware of them. You know, I'm obviously thinking about things like PubWatch and what have you, just to flag things up, like when the dates of the consultation will be to those sorts of interested parties from licensing point of view, I think might be useful. Maybe they'd do that anyway, actually.
In terms of the licensee, we do have the PubWatch group. We got the nighttime levy board. We do have Sam's newsletter. So there is the Hackney Night Portal. So there are various forums that people, or in particular licensee, or who are or particularly affected by license policies in the borough, will be able to know what is happening. And Miguel, who assists Sam, actually do in-person engagement, and David team as well, they do visit premises. So I think there were ample of opportunity for our licensee businesses to be aware of what we are doing around it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And I think, David, I'd be right in saying that a lot of this stuff's set down in statute in terms of the length of time that we give, you know, all that kind of stuff.
The length of time, unless there's a minimum, I don't think there's a. I think locally we might have like a preferred length of time, you know, no less than say 4 weeks, for example. But it's not within this legislation as statutory length of time.
Thank you. Any further questions at all? Points of clarification? Okay. So can we note the timetable, please, for the review of the statement of licensing policy and the cumulative impact assessment? Thank you. So agenda item 6 is any other urgent business. I don't think there is any urgent business unless there's urgent business on the floor or online. Just giving people an opportunity to come back. Any business that is not considered to be urgent will be dealt with outside of the meeting. And can we note, please, the next committee meeting is scheduled for the 8th of March in the new year, 23. Brilliant. So there being no further business, I now declare the meeting closed, and it will hand over to the licensing and corporate lawyer, Amanda North. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.